What is up, everybody? Justin with the Real Alaska Podcast, and I'm here with my co-host,
Billy. Thanks, guys, for being here.
Billy. Who's?
Is it Billy the Kid?
It depends on who you talk to, probably.
Yeah. And of course, the other person on the mic is
Jesse Stanton.
Jesse. Welcome, man.
Thank you both very much for having me. Man, you guys just look fantastic. You know that, like, just looking at you, I imagine you guys smell what Pierce Brosnan probably smells like.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I think that's a compliment.
Old man. Yeah. Is that what we're going for? Sorry, Pierce. I didn't mean that.
No, you guys look fantastic, man.
Oh, I appreciate that. Man, you're just coming out with a freaking hot compliment, like right off the get-go. Dude, you know how to schmooze us.
You know, it's this theory, right? You look good, feel good, right? And you embody that. So even on the phones, you know, you got to look good, feel good, right? That's all mindset. And so a lot of what we do is talking to people and putting ourselves out there and representing somebody.
Right.
I don't want somebody to represent me that can't find the right size pants or whatever, you know? Like,
yeah. Or just, straight up, it's gym day all day.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, at least in our field, right?
Sure.
So, but Jesse.
Sir.
Let's talk about we want to get to know you.
Okay.
Deeply.
Okay. Have you guys checked out my OnlyFans? Feet pics only. Feet pics only.
I can't
though.
say I'm a subscriber, but I'll check that out.
Wink. So yeah, man. So tell us kind of like a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do. I mean, obviously, we went to like the whole creative financing thing last night, which is kind of badass. Kind of learning that whole process. So maybe kind of round out kind of like what all that entails and what you do, man. And I guess give us your story, bro. Like imagine.
Okay, you want my superhero, like the origin story.
I mean, really,
right?
there was
Origin story here.
There was
Okay.
some good engagement in there. How many people do you think we had in there?
I think we had just shy of 30. I think we had around 26, 27 people.
And from what I understand, that's the first meeting that you guys have had. Right?
That was the first one, man. Just on, and it was great, man. Thank you guys very much for coming, by the way.
Yeah.
It was our first one. It was our first community get together. We've been wanting to do this for maybe about the last 6 or 7 months, but the first, or when we initially started talking about doing this, it was during the summer. So of course everybody's out, everybody's camping, everybody's fishing. So trying to get everybody on the same page to put something together has proved to be a little bit of a challenge. But that's one of the great things about winter, man. There's a double-edged sword there. The days are long, and sometimes they kind of suck. But dude, if you got something to keep you busy, I mean, it just makes winter go by that much faster.
Oh,
so,
yeah, man. Yep.
Yeah, this was kind of the first one, and we talked a lot about pre-foreclosures and how we can kind of unify and come together in different facets of real estate. Whether you're an investor or a realtor, GC, loan officer, whatever, an attorney.
I think there might have been some folks represented in that room last night. I know there's a lot of hard questions for you guys, and it looks like everybody was taking notes. So I think that's going to be really fruitful for you.
Thank you. No, I agree. The first one, it was like I said, man, it was the first one. I think we got a lot of kinks to work out, but in terms of Aaron and Carly and Cassandra kind of led the conversation. And I know for Aaron specifically, it was his first time doing any sort of, like public speaking or anything like that. So just for him to get up there and kind of get that experience a little bit, was awesome to see.
It's interesting, actually. I was leaving last night, and I was like, he's going to get better at that over time, and it's going to be pretty powerful because he's very passionate about what he's talking about.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so it was actually interesting. So I started to look into it last night. I was like, do we still have Toastmasters in Anchorage? I was just like, I should do that. Right. Like,
do we?
I think we do. I know.
For real?
Yeah. One of my friends was really mixed up in that for a while before COVID, and I don't. And
It's all pitching, right?
It's
it's
public speaking. So you get a topic, you go up and you do a little presentation, and then people pick at you, right? So like, me naturally, I'm an introvert. And when I got into sales, I had to learn how to be extroverted. So I'm like, I should probably like say hi or whatever, right? And so I had to like teach myself those skills. Like they're all learnable skills, right?
Sure.
It's like sales is a learnable skill. It's one of those things. And so a friend of mine recommended me to Toastmasters, but I've never quite done it. And I think that after last night, I might bite it off and see what I can do.
That would be interesting.
That'd be amazing. I would do something like that with you, man. I'm always just looking for opportunities to jump in and get uncomfortable and get better.
That's my thing too. Is like things that make me uncomfortable. I'm trying to challenge myself.
I want to do more of that too.
Yep.
So what do you got? What do you got planned? Have you? I mean, not to. I know. Yes. Some questions. I was really engaged in this, man. This is awesome. This is really unique. And I'm gonna praise Justin again because I can we cuss on this or no?
Yeah.
You keep it mild or?
Fuck yeah, we can.
Okay. All right. I love Justin, dude. And he's one person who stood out to me. amongst the many people that I've met here in Alaska, just in terms of his mindset, his drive, his ambition, the things he's wanting to do, and the people he's wanting to surround himself with. And I really respect him and look up to them. And so I appreciate your friendship.
Thanks,
I appreciate
man.
your brotherhood, man. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here and to have these types of conversations and to surround myself with, obviously, everybody else in your network. So a friend of Justin's is a friend of mine. Billy, appreciate you, man. But what do you have planned for coming up this next year? Like when you were going over goals, professional, personal. I know you talked about getting uncomfortable. I mean,
so
that's what I'm trying to do is surround myself with other people.
Really bold goals. I was like, okay, I don't normally do that to myself. I'm normally like, okay, I'm going to do like a week at a time, and then I'm going to kind of chug away. And like I've done that the last year, and that's been really successful for me. And so I'm thinking this year, I have some production goals, and then this year is the year of the video for me, man. I've been really timid in front of the camera, if you will. Like usually, I'm like sweating and shit. I'm like, what is the big deal? It's just a camera, right? And now I'm really working on doing that stuff, and so I'm putting out 3 videos a week, and see what that does for me as far as like digital marketing space goes.
Amazing, dude, awesome. So are you on the gram? Are you on the TikTok? Like, are you putting like those types of videos out? Is that what you're doing?
I'm on everything.
Yeah. Awesome.
If there's a platform that I'm missing, please let me know.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah,
I love it. Awesome.
Only feet.
Only feet.
Realtor fans. That's got to be a thing, right?
It's absolutely a thing.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, obviously, we've known each other for a little bit of time. Just love what you're doing online. The mindset stuff is super huge. I know you're kind of, I think you're a student of the whole Pace Morby stuff, right? Like a direct student?
Yeah, I was one of the first people to join. Actually, it was kind of an interesting story. So, like 2.5, maybe just shy of 3 years ago, I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't know anything about really what a realtor did. I had no idea what a title company did.
Yeah.
Had no idea what it meant to open up escrow.
Yep.
And I had a friend reach out to me. We hadn't spoken in like 15, 20 years or something like that, childhood friend. And we're just kind of getting, dude, it is. So Facebook, right? Call it the universe, whatever, man. So weird how that played out. But we're just kind of doing the whole.
Isn't that how we connected?
I don't know. How did we get, was it not OnlyFans?
I don't know. Could have been.
It was either OnlyFans or Bookface. It was probably Bookface. But
fans only.
We're getting reconnected and just doing the whole, hey, what are you up to? What are you up to? We got kids. Where are you living now? And I'm originally from Southeast Idaho. I'm from a town called Idaho Falls.
Yep.
I don't advertise that, so just keep that between us gals.
That's a beautiful town,
It's not
man.
something I put out
the
there.
buildings are like red brick, and everything looks like a dentist office. Sure.
I don't know if that's a good thing, man.
There's like molars outside of every building.
Yeah. Some people, when I tell them that, they're like 5 minutes later, like, where are you from again? Like Ohio or Iowa or something like that. And frankly, both of those sound better than Idaho, so I let it slide. But yeah, we just kind of got getting reacquainted, man. He's like, Jesse, have you ever thought about getting into real estate? I was like, well, I thought about getting my realtor's license a few years ago when I lived in Phoenix.
Sure. Right.
And he's like, okay, well, that's awesome, dude. What about like investing? Have you ever thought about getting into investing at all?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I was kind of sarcastic with him.
Right.
And I was like, man, I don't know if you know anything about Alaska, but I was in the military at the time, and I was like, dude, like I don't have just 6 figures burning a hole in my pocket, so I can go buy a fourplex in South Anchorage.
Right.
And he's like, you know what? I've got a meeting with some other people later in the week on Zoom. Zoom was getting really big during the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, how about you just jump in and be a fly on the wall? I was like, well, beam me up, Scotty, twist my arm, right?
Yeah. Call it purple.
So I went ahead and did, man. And it was interesting because I honestly, if I'm being honest with you guys, I really didn't even want to go. I had really no interest in it, but I didn't want it to be awkward because I just met with my friend. We're just getting reacquainted and all that kind of stuff, so I don't want to ditch out.
Reacquainted, immediately pitch you.
Yeah. So I put myself on mute, turn the camera off, and I'm kind of half-assed listening, playing games on my phone. And I hear them start talking about buying properties and leveraging other people's money and other people's credit and other people's debt. And I was like, this sounds like a scam. Let me listen in.
Right? Because I want to know what's up. You got to be looking for this stuff, you know?
Yeah. So I started listening in, man, and that's just kind of what started the rabbit hole. So my introduction to investing and learning about money was, I guess you could say it was probably at kind of a higher level, but just it was by pure luck. I didn't know anything about house hacking. I didn't know, about conventional loans or anything like that.
Right.
It was straight into creative finance. And so creative finance for the last 2.5, almost 3 years now has been my foundation. And I've just built up from that, and just kind of a lot of the simpler things, like house hacking and learning about FHAs and learning about all these different kind of loans was something that I picked up way, way later.
Yeah.
So it was interesting how that all kind of worked out, but it's neat what it's culminated into now, and now we do a lot of wholesaling. If you guys are familiar with wholesaling, do a lot of wholesaling all over the country. We're buying properties, and everything that we do is creative finance. We don't use any banks. So it's kind of been an interesting endeavor. This year, diving into some bigger multifamily commercial properties, we're wanting to do. We got about 5 markets or so picked out in the lower 48 that we're wanting to pick up some bigger commercial family properties. And so I'm curious how that's going to combine with kind of creative finance, plus at the same time going into maybe some more conventional things as well, and just kind of getting more intentional with raising capital and all that kind of fun stuff. So
it's the creative finance stuff and in my industry is very, I don't know. I don't want to talk bad about anybody. I just think there's a lack of education.
Right, and it just hasn't been on the forefront.
A lack
too, right?
of desire.
Because loans have been so cheap, so we haven't necessarily had the need for an alternate product.
Yeah.
Right, and now the interest rates are kind of up, and then people are, in whatever situation they're in, some of that stuff's starting to become more relevant.
Sellers weren't wanting to seller finance because they could put it on the market and get $50,000 over asking. Right now, market shifted a little bit. I mean, a little bit here, but definitely down south, right?
It's extremely volatile down there.
Yeah. So it's, their inventory super heavy in certain areas, and then in other areas, maybe not so much. Here, we're inventory light, right? We've got like a month of inventory, which is a complete opposite of other areas of the country. So it's, everybody's, it's different. But the whole creative financing thing, I think people just get stuck inside of a box with what standard financing is to buy something, right?
Yeah.
And anything outside of that is, there's not a lot of education on it. And then B, I think it's just too big of a puzzle for people to put together. Like, it's just so much work. They're like, nah, I don't want to do that.
It is.
Like,
Well,
think
about it. Like, if you have to offer
I'm not
that
going to help you.
product to your client, you have to understand what's happening.
Right.
And I think maybe that's the holdback in some circumstances.
Well, it's interesting from your guys' perspective, because you guys are obviously, you're open-minded, you want to learn and see how we can both mutually come together and do things together, make money together, and serve the community, serve clients at a much higher level. But you have some realtors up here. Alaska is a really, really unique,
very unique
market. I feel like it's really 20 or 30 years behind the time. They're still waiting to figure out that Nirvana broke up. Like, that's kind of where Alaska's at. You know what I mean?
It's behind. But it's not just real estate, dude. Every single profession and industry is that far behind.
And it's an interesting topic too. Like, we'll go down to the States and go to these conferences and we're talking to people. I'm like, hey, what, like the things that they're doing, now we bring back here, and it's like, wow, you guys are like light years ahead. And they're like, no, this is the standard. You guys just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, like if you guys were transplanted in the lower 48, you would not make it.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you give me some examples on like what you guys are seeing on your level that just isn't happening up here?
Okay, so we just got our first fillable form on MLS this year.
For real?
Yes. Like, you can fill out the form online.
Can you believe that?
I can't. That's interesting.
That's crazy. That's like newfangled tech right there.
Dude, the state just updated their thing where you can actually finally, as of 3 months ago, you can submit your relicensure and all that stuff online.
All right.
End of
We're moving up in the world, man.
I mean,
I'm like,
hey, at least we got the wheel, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm like, there's still agents out there who have never used electronic signature.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Those are probably the guys who've been doing it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Man, right? Like, you have to adapt.
They're in their ways, and they have their specific processes, and arguably it's been very productive for them over time.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's kind of the blockbuster study, right, where they're not adapting to times, and that's okay, right? Because in the reality is it's like I'm not an ageist at all, but like I imagine that if you're a realtor and you're 70, you're probably close to like wanting to buy that house in Florida, Arizona, or wherever it is and do your thing, right? Go into that next phase of your life.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting time because folks in my generation were kind of, I didn't have an iPhone until I was 25. So I've had kind of a taste of both.
That was about when I got my first iPhone, 26, 25, 26.
Right. And I think that makes me uniquely equipped to navigate both populations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good timing for me. I think.
It's just, we're at I think a significant crossroads in Alaska where a lot of business was created 30 years ago.
Yeah.
40 years ago.
And set and forget it.
Right. And those people are at a retirement point, and those businesses have never really adapted to technology. And now they're like, well, I'm going to sell and do this. And you're like,
okay.
But your business practices are 40 years old, and if I remove you, like your business completely fails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's going to take significant capital to like develop and come like if a new buyer is going to come in and be like, oh my God, we have so much work to do.
Right.
Because there's so many years of just not keeping up with how business is evolving.
Right.
That that's your fair market value is different than. Right. So
but it's an interesting opportunity for somebody that's very organized that has, really good processes, right? Because you can come into these things and take something that was very successful over time that has good credit because it's, 30 years old.
Yeah.
Right. And do something really great with it.
Yeah.
Right. And people are very supportive of local business.
Correct.
Despite some of the barriers that we have as businesses in Alaska, people are really supportive of that.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can keep some of these older businesses alive. And
I think so.
I think that's what makes it so unique, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, people don't know what to expect when they come up to Alaska.
Yeah.
People have been saving their entire life.
Yeah.
And they'll save tens of thousands of dollars to come up here for 2 or 3 weeks during the summer just to experience it.
For like 5 days.
And it's really neat, man. I mean, it really is the last frontier, and you don't understand what that truly means until you come up here and you experience it. You see the culture. You see some of these businesses that have been around for a while, they're kind of doing things a little bit behind. But like you said, like that's okay. And that's part of just what we embrace as Alaskans and what makes us unique. And I think that's really neat. But it does serve as a double-edged sword when there are other things that we can bring up here, other ideas.
Right.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think that's the struggle with a lot of people up here as well is they're not receptive to those.
I would agree.
There's pushback.
I would argue, they're late adopters, right?
Yeah.
With that, like, I always tell you, he's like the first guy to get the new app. He's like, you're an early adopter in school. It's like, everyone will catch up in a couple of weeks,
I know. This week has been all about the Chat GPT.
Have you seen that? Chat GPT?
No.
It's mine.
No, what is that?
Oh, dude. It's that AI that will write stuff for you. It'll write blogging. It'll write essays. It'll write.
So you think about like Siri, that's a voice-activated AI, right?
Right.
This is a text-based AI. Right?
But it scrubs the entire internet to create. It'll write code for you.
Really?
Yeah. Like if you want to create code for an app, you have to outline exactly what you want the app to do in your inquiry, and then you just go submit. And it will create the entire code for an app.
So is it in beta testing right now? Are you actually using it, or what are you?
No, I'm using it. We're using it. Like we're full on using it.
What are you guys using it for?
And then, yesterday, we're like, okay, we want to create a class for a specific genre or a specific client. You say, hey, create me a whatever class for this, bam, and it comes out. And then oddly enough, you can now do slides AI. So you take your presentation you just made, you drop it into Slides AI, who then populates all the slides with all your key points and all your stuff, and you have a presentation. It literally takes like 3 minutes.
I created 3 presentations yesterday.
Oh my gosh, dude!
I created 3 whole classes and 3 presentations for each class with key talking points on slides in 25 minutes,
maybe less. Yeah,
maybe an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Just kind of poking around.
Dude, what is this doing for kids in school right now, man?
Yes, I showed it to my girlfriend's kids last night. I was like, hey, do you need any book reports?
Fuck, dude.
I was like, check this out.
Oh, did you charge them $10, $20?
I was like, write a book report for Charlotte's Web, and it's like, shh.
They're gonna start charging for it.
But I imagine they're gonna start charging because it's a really cool service. It's neat.
So it's free right now?
It's free right now. They're gonna start charging for it because apparently it costs them $100,000 a day on servers because they run off Microsoft's Azure server system. So it's $3 million a month to run that AI.
Oh my gosh.
And you'll get on there and it'll be like,
they're going to find an application for it and it's going to pay them huge.
Oh, I guarantee it, dude.
I'd be curious to know what they integrated into. That's going to be a game changer.
They're already integrating. You could Zapier into it.
Really?
Yeah.
So people are setting up automated text.
Dude, it's insane.
So like they're setting up, like an automated text, and then they're replying. They're like the Zapier will pull it out, bring it over, and then replying with AI.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy when it comes to business and lead gen and marketing. And I mean, it's almost like there's like perfection will literally, the word will be coming to the discussion now in terms of how to market. And
yeah,
that's crazy what this AI stuff is.
You could say, hey, how do I
man.
optimize my SEO on Google, whatever. And it's like step by step, bam, there's you go. There's your answer.
Really?
It'll create a full on, like how to optimize your GMB. And it'll create a whole step-by-step class for you. It does it all in 2 minutes.
And this is free right now?
Free 99, bro.
I need to download this on my phone. It's on my. You can get it on your phone.
It's a web-based. It's not an app.
Okay.
So it's web-based now.
Okay. I'll get that information again from you before I leave.
We'll show you.
Yeah.
You gotta sign in. You gotta sign in for it and all that kind of jazz, right? So
my partner's gonna be like, Jesse got fucking nothing done this week.
That's what I would.
You're fucking around with AI, dude.
That was the conversation. I was like, we just made a lot. I mean, like this made some jobs obsolete. Like it did. Like
that's an interesting conversation, man. Like there's a lot of people who are worried about where we're going with development and technology and AI and making jobs elite or
obsolete.
Obsolete. Thank you. But at the same time, I heard somebody say, man, maybe I don't know who it was. It was like somebody in the caliber of Elon Musk, but I don't know if it was Elon Musk that actually said it.
I know what you're getting at, and I agree.
Uh-huh.
Before you even said that, I know what you're getting at.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that is, as technology makes these other jobs obsolete, it also creates jobs.
Yeah, so we just reassign the labor force.
Is that kind of where you were going?
Yeah.
So instead of doing this one thing, now you can free it up to go do something else.
Right.
But it also creates, like somebody else has to like oversee that technology, and then you're going to have like maintenance and all this. So that technology creates other jobs, but it gets rid of other things, right?
So it's just a reassignment of labor force. So I think that argument that people have, singularity, okay, that's a valid argument. Okay, we've all seen Terminator, right?
Right. Well, I think part of it is it starts to kind of move. I think a lot of the technology we see is getting rid of a lot of the like lower paying jobs, typically those entry level positions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, besides like labor, right? Like actual labor jobs, right? Because you just can't have a robot do that right now. But other stuff like entry level, like admin and writing and like a blogger or whatever else, like that stuff's starting to go away, and now they're turning into like pretty skilled positions, right?
Which is great. We got more people who are bringing more value to the marketplace, which people are making more money. We were circulating it, and
at least that's my opinion. I mean, I could be 4,000% wrong.
No, I think you're onto it, man. I think you're onto it.
I mean, that's just the crystal ball I have.
It creates a need for skilled labor, right? That's a good opportunity.
It could be a very cloudy crystal ball.
Some smudges on it.
That'll be interesting to see how it plays out this year.
I think it's, I showed another friend last night, Carlina, and you met her, right? And she runs the Keeper stuff, right? So a startup, which is like super rad. Like that's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge.
For everybody who doesn't know what that is, like throw that out real quick. So I thought that was just super super cool.
Yeah. So shout out to Carlina again. I'm sure she appreciates this, but So essentially, because we run an Airbnb management company, right? And our biggest pain point, 100% hands down, is cleaning. Right. Cleaners call in sick. Cleaners don't show up. So we're having to find cleaners to do things, right? And so they have completely built an app that has automated the process for you as a host. Like as soon as a job comes, like as soon as you get a booking, within 2 weeks of that booking, the job goes out to all their cleaners. Cleaner selects it. There's an entire process that they have to go through during the cleaning process, and the entire checklist, submit pictures, check for damage, all this stuff in order to get paid, right? Plus all the laundry, etc. But you can ask for specific cleaners. The cleaner gets to review you. You get to review the cleaner. So it's like Uber for housekeeping.
That was the conversation
on short-term rentals.
It's a really complex So I was like, it's integrated with like VRBO and Airbnb is what she's talking about.
Plus on the OTA, so they're starting to get into some of the property management third-party softwares that, because like us, we integrate VRBO, Bookings.com, Airbnb all into singular calendars. We have like automated messaging, pricing tools, obviously, because the pricing tools dictate supply and demand. So your pricing isn't just, it's not set for the year. It adjusts every 6 hours. So they're working on full integrations into, APIs into those property management softwares. So no matter where the booking comes from, that calendar is synced to their keepers thing. Right, and it automates the housekeeping part of it. And
it dispatches to who, like she was saying, you could pick somebody, but then it also dispatches to the closest one to improve efficiencies for time and travel.
Gosh dang, I need one of those just for my house, man.
So they're working on that for long-term housekeeping as well. Like, so you can like put a thing out, right? I think that's another thing later. I mean, I could be completely wrong. I think she mentioned it, so sorry, Carlina, if I'm wrong. But
hot leak.
Yeah, it's super dope. I mean, they launched here in Alaska as, she's from Anchorage, right?
I'm proud of that. That's awesome.
It's an Alaska startup,
I love
right? That. They launched in Alaska, so we're like ground zero beta testing. I know last night she said that they had like 79 keepers across Alaska already.
Oh my gosh!
Up, right, and so I think it's going to be massive of a company. So good job, Carlina.
Kicking butts.
Dude, that's awesome. That's a great prime example of what we're talking about here. Just local businesses and being able to come in and take different ideas and bring something to the market here that and fill a void that hasn't been filled yet.
It fires me up,
super
man.
cool.
It's finding pain points.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You got to find pain points for people, man. Because business is always there to fulfill a need, a want or a need, right? And if you don't have a good product or if you don't have a good service, what happens? People quit using you. People quit buying your shit.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that's capitalism to the T, right? Is like you provide a superior service or a product that people want, then people are going to use it. Like people are pissed off at Amazon, right? Oh my God, ban China. We don't like Chinese goods. And then you see the 14 packages that just showed up on their Amazon step the next day. And you're like, really? Like,
jerk.
Like, come on, man. Like, you can't be, a cheerleader and then doing the exact thing you hate doing, right?
Yeah,
like,
you have to.
Because it's convenience.
Right.
It's like Uber, like Lyft and like Uber Eats and Grubhub. Like you're paying for convenience, right?
Yeah, it's so nice too. Like we had gone down to the States, we're looking at, like Amazon delivery, and I'm looking at all the delivery services and stuff. It's wild. It's like you can order food, they'll attach beer to it. It'll show up at your house. Like I was like, this is awesome.
Oh wait, hold on. Like I don't know what that is.
So
I live in Alaska.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So I don't know if you use like Uber Eats or DoorDash or any of those things. So in the States, like specifically, I don't know if it's everywhere, but in Texas,
real America,
right? In Texas, right? You can go onto any of those providers and you can add, alcohol or whatever. And I was like, think about how many lives that probably saved.
Right.
Right. Nobody's doing beer runs anymore because you can go right on that and pull it in. Like that's awesome.
Interesting.
I would argue that that's a significant social issue that they attacked.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. That is super cool.
So I don't know. It's just, different, right? And you can order Amazon. It comes the same day. Like I ordered something and it had come like that night. I was like, okay, that's what's up.
That's not bad.
I mean, if you like Seattle and some of those areas, man, like you have delivery within an hour.
It's wild to think about.
Walmart just signed a multi-billion-dollar contract for drone delivery. Like, so you order and then it's like, drop.
That's awesome. I wonder what the weight restriction is on that.
Dude, some of those drones can pick up some freaking solid pounds. I think it's like 8 pounds, 10 pounds.
Because I know they were developing drones to do wildland fire, and they were like dumping water and stuff and like getting them to these really inaccessible places with drones.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
It's cool.
Drones has come a long way too.
Come a long way.
I heard a quote from somebody. I don't remember who it was. I'm going to have to look it up after this. But they said it was something along the lines of, and this isn't like verbatim, but the idea was it's more important to dream than it is to like have knowledge, so to speak.
I can understand that.
Then, or maybe he used the word educated or something like that. But I mean, it just goes to in line with everything we're talking about right now. Can you imagine? Think about like back in 1902 when the Wright brothers were flying a plane. Could you imagine like when their mom was having tea or coffee or whatever with her girls in the living room and they're like, can you believe that Wilbur thinks he can fly? So like, can you imagine like what those conversations were like? And now look at where we are. You know, we're talking about drones and it's interesting,
it blows
man.
their mind. They probably could never even imagine, you know, that it would have gone that far.
Yeah. Yeah. Just an idea, just from dreaming, you know? And one thing I've learned being in business over the last couple of years, especially in real estate, because we talked about it a little bit last night, is the problem with real estate that I'm finding is there's too many ways to be successful in it.
Right, you get choice anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know where to start. You get overwhelmed and you're like, well, I could do this. And so you have somebody who takes a direction and they start, whether that's a marketing strategy, whether that's SEO, whether that's driving for dollars, whether that's calling pre-foreclosure leads, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if they don't get any traction in, 2 or 3 weeks, what do? They start scrolling on Facebook, see somebody post a check for $40,000, they got a wholesale fee or something like that.
Right.
Well, what's everybody doing?
Right.
Well, in the comments, everyone's like, what'd you do? What'd you do? Oh, well, I got this from a probate lead. Yeah. And so they stop what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, well, I need to go talk to probate attorneys.
Right. And this is what I found with real estate. And real estate in and of itself is a very large swath of disciplines. Right? There's so many disciplines within that one singular word, right? You have short-term rentals, you have long-term rentals, you have arbitrage, you have commercial residential, you have wholesaling, you have creative financing. I mean, and then in every single one of those is a lifetime of education.
100%.
Right? So, what I see is, people cast this just large net, right? To kind of like all-encompassing try to serve all of this stuff. But then they realize, like what they said, before, is like, it's just like drinking through a freaking fire hydrant, man. Like, okay, so like, let's get to a discipline, right? And, and I see this with newer agents, it's like, try to take it all in. I'm like, no, we need to like narrow down your education to strictly this.
Niche down, master it.
You master it,
100%.
Build confidence, learn the industry, learn how transactions work, and then we grow your knowledge base into another discipline, right? But we can't have you be multidisciplined in your first however many months, right?
Right.
Like, it's just not good.
Right.
It's not going to be good for anybody. It's not good for the client. It's not good for you. It's not good for the broker who's taking on the liability, right?
Yep.
So, like, it's important for people to kind of narrow down where they want to go. If it's creative financing, man, like figure out all the different ways of creative financing. If it's wholesaling, like figure out how to wholesale and how to get leads for wholesaling and everything else, right? Because, dude, there's so much information and education on just one of those singularly. If you take on 3 disciplines all at once, it's information overload, dude.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you become so inundated with info, you don't actually become very good at one singular thing.
100%.
And I would argue that one thing is, that's the base that you build everything else on.
Correct.
Right? That's the growth component. Right?
Well, and as you're making money, you can work on other things.
Right.
Right. Educate yourself as you're doing really well in that one. Right. And then grow it.
Yep.
And now you have 2 disciplines.
Yep.
And then get good at both of those. And then grow a third. Right. And then if you get to a point where you have multiple disciplines and you like one more than the other, well, dude, you could drop one off, quit doing it. You still have the knowledge base for it if you ever want to get back into it later.
Swing right back around.
But that's how it works, So, yeah, that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And then too, real estate, that's a long-term game.
Long-term game.
It's almost opposite of our current culture, right? Like it's not the McDonald's experience.
Right.
As much as we want it to be the Amazon experience, it's also not that. It takes a little time, right? So.
But it's crazy though. At the same time, you're right. It's a long-term game. It is a team sport. It's a team 100%. Game. And dude, real estate's created more millionaires than anything else.
Yeah,
anything else, man. Like, it's interesting because people look at the cost of a course,
right,
or a mentor, or a book, or a class, or a teacher, or whatever that is.
Like, $5,000? Are you kidding? Right? Like,
yeah.
Like, yeah, that's $5,000.
But they don't look at the cost of what's the cost of not doing it?
Right.
What does the end of the year look like for you for not investing in yourself, for taking that dive and betting on yourself?
Or, it's the catch-22 of that is for a few grand to hire this coach or business performance coach or whoever else, right? They have a massive amount of experience and insight that would take you a very long time to get. And for a few grand, they're giving it to you.
That's cheat code, dude. Like coaching, and more and more people are doing that.
Yeah. Like that's 100% that's a solid cheat code, dude. Like, you know, if you could detach yourself to that person, I mean, just think, you know, how much info, like Mark Cuban, dude. I wish I could like, Mark Cuban, teach me your ways. You know, I mean, that guy is obviously a master at business, built $1 billion empire. He knows what he's doing, right? Elon, right? I mean, obviously another amazing entrepreneur, right? Like probably hands down the most influential tech entrepreneur in our generation, in our century, right? So it's those people, man. Like if they were to like, hey, man, I'm going to offer you a coaching class for 10 grand,
I'll take it.
100%.
I might even quit.
Dude, where do you want me to wire the money from?
You know, I quit my job for that. Straight up, like I'm like, hey, I'm going to take 2 weeks off. I'll be back.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
That's invaluable to know what they know, right?
Well, it's like oxygen mask theory, right? So like everything that you're investing in yourself theoretically is coming out as value to your client. You know, everything that you do, and you carry it with you, right? Yeah. And if you're taking good care of yourself, you're eating well and drinking enough water and getting enough sleep, that seems really like basic, right?
Right.
But like LeBron James, his whole thing was
outwork
basics, right? You outwork that, right? And so what are you in this transaction? You are the value.
Right.
Right. And so any education you can get, that makes you that much more valuable.
Correct.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
And you get that's where you get paid, right? You get paid on the amount of value that you bring to the marketplace.
Absolutely.
It's interesting you brought up LeBron James, man. I heard a story about Kobe Bryant before he passed. And he met up with some reporter, and this reporter wanted to come watch Kobe practice. And I think he had a practice the same day he had the game. And so I think he told the reporter, he said, okay, meet me at 3:30 at whatever gym. And so he
AM, by the way.
3:30 a.m. Yes.
Yeah. AM. We gotta clarify.
And so I think he wanted to impress Kobe, so he showed up I think at 3.
Right.
If I'm remembering the story right. And he shows up he pulls into the parking lot at 3. There's already a car in the parking lot. He gets out, and as he's approaching the gym, he can already hear shoes squeaking and the ball bouncing. And he walks in there. Kobe's already getting after it.
Right.
And after a couple hours of watching him, a lot of the stuff that he was doing was very, very basic stuff.
Fundamentals.
And it was 100% effort into it, though. He wasn't just, lollygagging.
Right.
It was 100% effort and intention and meticulous, but it was a lot of the basic stuff. And later that night, they had the game, and obviously he did phenomenal. Then after the game, that same reporter asked him, hey, you're the greatest basketball player ever. Like, why are you wasting time? Like, why'd you spend so much time this morning just like screwing around, like fucking around with like simple shit? And he said, I'm the greatest of all time because I'm the only one doing that.
Right.
Consistently working on those fundamentals.
Right.
So whether you're in real estate or sales or whatever, dude, oh my gosh,
He out drilled and outworked everyone. Period.
Right.
dude, I love his philosophy. That's why I wake up at 3 a.m., man. And he explained it. He explained it best because he said, you guys have probably heard this before. Most of the guys, that were his peers, they would wake up and go to the gym from like 9 to 11, work out for 2 hours, go have lunch, take a break, come back and get it after it, between 3 to 5 or whatever that looked like. And then that was whatever else they had during the day, but that was kind of it. And then he wakes up at 3 and he eats and starts working out between 3:30 and 5:30 and then takes a break. And anyway, he does that throughout the day. And so he gets in 4 or 5 practices in one day simply because he's starting it out his day earlier.
Yeah.
And when you start doing that shit, that's where you start seeing a separation between everybody else on your level and you.
Yep.
A lot of people wonder why would you get up at 3 a.m? Like, I don't know if they just don't, they think it's like a mindset thing or whatever. In a lot of ways, to be able to consistently do that, it is.
Right.
But when you have somewhere you're trying to get, and if it's at a level you've never been to before, you've got to become that person in your mind long before that shit starts manifesting itself in real life. Whether that's
you nailed it with that. And I would argue that getting up at that morning and making yourself do shit that you don't want to do, that's you dominating yourself and is positioning you for those opportunities.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. I mean, I think mindset is just so huge when you start getting into business and elevating, and really, this is all really interesting, man, because a little over 3 years ago, like having these types of conversations, like I would have been like, what? No, let's go. What's on Netflix, man?
Yeah.
Walking Dead's. I got to finish that up.
I talk a lot about manifestation with the agents here. I'm like, I was like, it seems wild, but like visualization, like Olympic athletes are using it. High-level military operators are using this, right, to improve their opportunities and success. And it's like, it works, right? So scripting and practice, like, even if it's just you being confident in that, when you deliver, the confidence will come through.
Correct.
Right? They have no idea what you're going to say, but you're going to say it so good, right?
Absolutely.
They have no doubt.
There is a trust in yourself. Like you're confident in your ability to perform, right? Even if you don't know what you're doing, right? It's like, say yes, figure it out later. Right? Like, but you individually come across like as you know what the fuck you're talking about. Right? Like, if you got hesitation in your voice and you're not very confident because it's not something that you practice, it's not something you think about in your head, right? Positively in your mindset that you can, dude, at the end of the day, like, you know what? I admit to myself, I may not 100% know this subject, but fucking A, I am going to do it, and I am going to make it and get it done.
I'm going to take some notes in Google when we walk out.
Do what?
I said, bet I take notes and then use Google when we walk out.
Or you just plug it into Chat GPT and then you'll be like,
hey, tell me all about exactly.
Chat GPT, create me a class on, God damn it, what am I just signed up for?
Exactly. But that's the game, though, right? It's like you figure it out and it's like, okay, I don't know about that. And then you learn more about it. It gets you all fired up. And
But that's why community is so important to go along with that.
Yeah.
You know, like that community gives you the confidence to say, if you're talking to a seller about something, or you're starting to get into creative finance or learn about wholesaling, whatever that is, having a community, in my opinion, is the single biggest thing that will aid in anybody's success, and whatever that is. You know, whether if you're wanting to learn to play guitar, you know, are you going to go learn from somebody else who's been playing for a year or two, or just starting to learn, you know, with you? Or what if you could have 10 Eddie Van Halens and Steve Vais
that'd be the way
every single day? You know what I mean? Like how much would you improve by that? That would give you the confidence and the mindset and the clarity and the action steps to go in and take these shortcuts and do these things that we're talking about. You brought up manifestation and visualization. There was I think it was like I don't know, probably saw it on Instagram or something like that, some motivational thing. But there was a study that was done where they had two different groups, just random ordinary people, and they each did free throws. I think it was over the course. Have you heard this one?
I've read this one, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Have you heard this one? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I think I've heard this one time. It was probably 6 months ago, but they wanted to test the power of visualization and not really necessarily manifestation, but
so
help me out here.
So they had 3 test groups, right? It
was 3.
They had everybody come in, you know, and they did a little bit of practice or whatever, and they figured out that, hey, you know, so we had everybody shoot for control, and then they had, you know, they basically prescribed them things. Like one group, they were going to shoot so many free throws a day. One group wasn't going to do anything, and then one group was going to visualize doing free throws every day. And so they had them come back, and they figured out, you know, the people that had practiced every day had actually gotten a little worse, but still slight improvements overall. And then the people that did nothing, similar results as the first time, but the people that visualized actually improved significantly.
Without practicing. That's all they did was come in and visualize that shit, bro.
So it's like, that's a pretty powerful
brain's powerful tool.
It is a powerful tool. And I would argue that it's what holds you back most of the time. Right? Like box jumps is like a perfectly good example of that. I don't know if you guys like, you know, like the plyometric boxes that people jump onto. Like, it doesn't seem very high, right? It's only like 12 inches, but you put it in front of you, like, I don't know if I'm going to get up there or not. But like, you know, the first time you get up there, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. And you build your confidence until, you know, you hit your shins on that bad boy. But, you know,
then it sucks.
But it's the same idea. Like the first time you make that jump and you made it, you're like, well, shit, I made it. You know, and you 100%. Just kind of build a little momentum, and those wins build just over time. Right?
Absolutely. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go aheid, bro.
All right. We have talked a lot about mindset, but I also want to make sure that we cover in our time, because we could probably ramble for like
hours.
Like, I want you to kind of talk about credit financing and kind of like what you do, like, it's like the wholesaling thing. I think most people understand kind of what wholesaling is, right? It's like you find a property, you put it under contract, right?
Yep.
And then you've got a little bit of a margin you want to make off that, and then you sell it to somebody else, right?
Yeah. The important distinction for everybody who doesn't know about wholesaling is you get a contract, you get a seller under contract, and you're promising them that price, but you're not closing on that property.
Right.
You're taking that contract and you're going and finding buyers in your local area who are fix and flippers most of the time. And they'll come in and you'll sell them that contract for maybe an additional $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 or whatever the numbers make sense on. And then they're the ones that actually come in, pay cash, close on it, seller gets paid out, you get paid out, they own the property now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But the more interesting part that I would like, so talk about the creative financing stuff is just, like, I guess like the, like PACES stuff, right? So the multi avenues of like the Subto, seller financing, like, all that kind of jazz.
Yeah. No, let's get into it, man. I'm excited. So great question. When a lot of people start asking me about Subto and seller finance and wraps and all these other like creative strategies, they think that they're thinking about you got to take that into context and what you know about sales. Right. You guys seen The Wolf of Wall Street? Oh yeah. Not to deviate too much, but I'm going to bring this into the harbor. Yeah. Yes. I heard somebody doing a bump out here before we started.
I get fired up, man.
So that scene where he holds up the pen. Yes. You guys know what the purpose of that scene actually is?
Right. Yes.
So most people, if you were to give any random person, even most people in sales, regardless of whether they're in real estate, whether they're cars or whatever, they're going to try and sell the pen, right? You say, sell me this pen. They're going to say, oh, well, it has 7 different colors and it writes upside down and in space and it'll last forever and you don't have to refill it and blah, 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 right? They actually tried to sell you the pen.
Right.
But what they don't realize is if I have 100 different pens in my pockets, do I really need another pen? Am I really in the market to buy another pen?
Right.
No, but they'll waste all of their time trying to convince you to buy that pen.
Right.
As we all know, I mean, we all got the same 24 hours. Whether you're Jesse Stanton or Warren Buffett, we all got the same 24 hours. Yeah. He's probably a little bit more intentional with how he's spending his 24 hours. That's obviously gotten him to the level that he's getting to. So we have to be conscientious of those things. And the reason I bring that up is because when it comes to creative finance, I have a lot of people, once they start learning, like I said, like when I first found out that you could buy a property for less than the price of a cup of coffee, I was like, what? I was trying to wrap my head around that. Like I could go to Starbucks and spend more at Starbucks than to actually go purchase a property with. That was just insane to me. And when people start learning those things, a lot of the things, in our community in Subto and the things we're doing here in Alaska, we're trying to, normalize the conversation of creative finance and let people kind of understand what that is. And so the common misconception that I'm seeing with a lot of people when they start learning about Subto is they think that they'll reach out to me and say, hey, I want to buy this house in Alaska and I want you to convince the seller. How do I convince the seller to sell it to me on Subto? So just like that pen, that's not what Subto is. We're not here to convince the inconvincible.
Right. You have to find a solution for that person.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's just one tool of a quiver of tools that you have, right? And
Absolutely.
that's why it's so interesting to me. It's like generally, we're working traditional lanes, like whatever, FHA and all the big ones, VA and all those kind of programs. But for the right person, this may be a really good option. And to me, that makes me more valuable as an agent. So that's why I was like, I'm definitely going to be in these meetings. I want to hear all the ins and outs of this stuff.
Well, every seller has a different need and a different why.
Right.
For sure.
So, it's like, we teach this to our agents. I'm like, it's pretty hard to sell somebody something if you don't even understand what they need. Right.
Right.
And how you understand that is by shutting the fuck up.
Yeah.
What do I say? Nothing.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Like, use these things that are attached to your head, right? You have to listen in order to actually figure out what somebody needs and wants, right? And it's asking the appropriate questions, right? They have to have a why and a need attached to it. Right? And if you keep talking,
you'll never figure that out.
You'll never figure that out, right? So it's like, hey, man, like, just shut up.
It's that 70-30 rule.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like going to a doctor. Doctor's trying to diagnose you. My stomach hurts.
Yeah.
All right, well, let me check your back. Is it hurt back here? Is it hurt here? Is it hurt when I do this? And, it's the same thing. When you're talking to sellers, you really need to figure out what the problem is. Mm-hmm. You typically wouldn't just go on Zillow, and you're not going to be able to buy every house on Zillow or on the market on Creative Finance.
Right.
I mean, from a technicality standpoint, you could, but the reason you're not going to is because that's not a good fit for the seller.
Right.
So when you're learning Creative Finance, you have to understand that it's not about what you want. It's not the fact that you want to buy this property and you want to buy it at Subto and you want to buy it for only $5,000, and that doesn't matter, bro. What does the seller want? What's going to help the seller?
Right.
And a lot of times when I talk to sellers, the way that you have to, again, it goes back to being intentional with our time, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to understand the full spectrum as to what's going on in the seller's world. Mm-hmm. And so I ask them, well, why haven't you listed it with an agent? Mm-hmm. And they'll one of two answers. They'll either tell me how much they hate agents and they don't want to pay them their commissions and blah, 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 blah. Yep. Or they're going to say, yeah, I'm actually listing it next month with my agent. Mm-hmm. And at which point, I stopped trying to sell. There's no problem for me to solve right now.
Right.
It sounds like you're a retail seller. It sounds like you're wanting retail price. This isn't a distressed property.
Right.
Why don't you go ahead and list it? Would it be okay if I followed up with you in maybe a month or two?
Yeah, because if it doesn't sell, maybe we look at a different solution, right?
Exactly.
100%.
And then we move on and we go find somebody else. That's a 30-second conversation, but you'll have a lot of people who will spend. Here's a good example. There was a young lady who brought me a property from California last week, and she said, this was a seller finance situation, if I remember right. It wasn't a Subto. But she said, hey, Jesse, I found this guy. He's willing to seller finance this property. It's in California. Mm-hmm. He wants, I think he said like 2.2 million or something like that. And then she starts telling me about the ARV and the comps and the property and the surrounding area and what's going on with it. And I said, hey, okay, well, hold on. That's great information. But really, all I need to know right now is if he's open to terms.
Right.
What kind of down payment is he looking for?
Right, because he's got to have something he's up to. Like,
right.
What is it that he needs? What is he trying to do? What's
right.
the next step?
We need to gauge his motivation. Is he a motivated seller, or is he just,
right.
I want $5 million for my property type of deal? You know what I mean?
Because you get 25% down.
You get a lot of those, man. When you talk to hundreds of people every single month, thousands of people every single month, you get a lot of those people who just want $1 million for their $100,000 property.
Right.
So really, that's kind of when it comes to disqualifying them to provide, in order to provide a solution, you have to understand what is it that they're trying to accomplish. Is it a need or is it a want?
Right.
So a lot of times, if they tell me that they need 2.2 million, I'm like, shoot, dude, I'll give you your asking price. Cool.
Right.
I'll pay you full price and I'll take it as is. No inspections, no banks, no nothing. I just need you to give me the terms in order for me to cash flow on it. That's all I'm looking for. I'm more of we do fix and flips and stuff, but I'm more of a long-term investor as well, trying to build my portfolio. So I'll give you your asking price and we can truly make this a win-win. But if he comes back and says, well, I want, 1.8 million down and I'll finance you 400,000.
That's not
then
good.
it's like, yeah, all right. Well, I'd go ahead and just sell it if I was you then.
Right.
If he says maybe for $100,000 or $200,000 down or something like that, it's like, okay, cool.
That's a little more doable.
Well, let's or even $300,000 or $400,000, we can at least have that conversation.
Right.
But if he's coming back, well, I want 1.5 or 1.8 or 2 million down, and I'll finance you $250,000 or whatever it is. It's like, oh, well, I appreciate you, but I'm not your buyer. Right. There's no problem for me to solve there.
Right.
If he wants all of his equity, he should go sell it with a realtor.
Right. Correct. And it sounds like they may be in a good position to do that. Right?
Oh, so. Yeah, 100%. So just making that distinction and understanding what creative finance is from that spectrum. It's not a tool for us to be able to go in and just do whatever we want and buy properties however we want. Like you said, it's another resource for us to be able to help sellers accomplish whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish.
Correct.
So it's neat because you can do a lot of different things. Like, would you say that most people would pay $1 million for a house that's worth $100,000?
No.
Would you?
No.
What if we structured it to where the payments were $1 a month for 1 million months?
I mean, that's doable because it's cash flowing pretty heavy.
It's cash flowing now, right?
Right.
So would you do something like that now then?
Yeah, probably. Because if the numbers make sense, why not?
Yeah. Right. So if you can go rent it for $1,500, you pay $1 to the seller every single month. You're cash flowing $14.99 gross. Ain't too bad, right?
No.
Nope.
So you overpaid for the property.
But you spread it out for a long time, and so your margin is there.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to creative finance, that's really what it's all about.
Right.
We're about getting in there low entry, and it's a cash flow game. It's a long-term game for the most part. I mean, you can go in there like this property we're doing in Anchorage right now. We bought it sub-2, less than the price of a cup of coffee, and we're doing a flip on it. And we'll be listing it, next week, this week, something like that?
It's coming soon status today.
Perfect.
Active on Friday.
So yeah, actually, I'll kind of share you a little bit about that. Just so everybody else who's watching can kind of hear kind of a case study on how this worked.
Right.
So I'll give you two examples. Earlier, a few months ago, there was a gentleman. He bought a property. He bought a condo in. I guess it wasn't a few months ago. Bought it a few months ago. This was last year. Maybe 12, 13 months now. It's been since he bought it. But he bought a condo in Anchorage, and he bought it with a VA loan. Young guy. So for those of you who are listening who don't know about the VA loan, as you guys know, no money down, which is great for veterans, right?
Yep.
So no money down. You got the VA funding fee.
Just roll into the cost of the home.
100%, right?
Yeah.
So veterans can go and buy properties with no money out of pocket,
right?
Other than earnest money.
Fee, I think it's
closing
after a
closing
certain point
costs,
of
right?
entitlement. I think they get a break on that too. So
Yeah.
it really reduces that barrier for them.
100%. The downside is they don't have any equity in the property.
Yeah, because the VA will lend up like 100 and something percent, like 112%,
112 or 110
of the
like that.
property's value, which is crazy that they'll do that. But that means you're upside down
for the first couple of years.
for the first couple of years.
100%.
So if you need to unload that, it could be, especially if the property value goes down and you've got that VA funding fee that pushed it up above 100% LTV.
Yeah.
Now that's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough
And
to
I ran into
unload
one
it.
like
Yeah.
that. I ran into one like that, right? Where the market had gained a bunch of equity and then we just pulled it, and I was like, that's crazy, you know? And so that's what it was, is they had that finance fee in there. So it really pushed them up over the top. So after 2 years, it didn't make sense to sell it. I was like, I can't advise you to do that. Maybe put a renter in there for a couple
rented it
years.
out.
Yeah.
For a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this guy was in a similar situation. He bought it for $200,000. By the time he rolled everything into his loan, he owed like $213 or $14 or something like that into it. And over the 9 months that he had owned it, it appreciated up to like $209, I think was what the realtor came back with. And so he was still technically $2,000 upside down. He owed, his payoff was $212, and his the properties were $210, something like that. Right. So he's still upside down on it. He wants to move to Florida. And so what does he do? What do people do when they want to sell their property?
Call an agent.
They call an agent.
Yep.
So that's what this gentleman did. So we went ahead and called an agent. The agent came over and kind of got information about the property and the payoff and all that kind of stuff, going over numbers. Well, he told the seller, hey, you're going to have to cut a check for about $20,000 if you want to get out from underneath this property.
He's got the cost to sell, and then he's upside down. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, you know.
So he's like, well, I don't got $20,000. He's like, all right, well, your only other option is to maybe, rent it out till the market kind of corrects and appreciates a little bit. You get a little bit of equity left in there so you can sell it. Yeah. And he's like, dude, he's just a young cat, man. He's like, man, I don't want to rent my property. I want to be in Florida, dude. I don't want to worry about leaky ass toilets in Anchorage, Alaska, while I'm on the beach sipping Mai Tais. So he's like, you know what? I know this guy in Wasilla. He kind of does some creative shit. Let me see if I can bring him in here and just have a conversation. Maybe he'll have an idea on how we can go about this and solve your problem. So anyway, long story short, we ended up buying that one sub-2. And a lot of people, when you explain it, so sub-2 is essentially it's unconventional way of purchasing properties. So what it is in its most lamest terms is the debt is staying in the seller's name, and the deed gets transferred to your name. That's what a sub-2 transaction is. And a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around that, because I think even a lot of licensed professionals are under the assumption that those two are kind of one and the same, that the debt and the deed are tied together. But in fact, that debt can stay in place and the deed can switch hands 100 different times. So in its most lamest terms, that's what a sub-2 transaction is when you purchase the property sub-2, It's short for subject to or subject to the existing mortgage.
Right.
So we're purchasing it subject to the existing mortgage. So we don't assume the loan. A lot of people have that misconception as well is, so you're assuming the loan. No, we're not assuming the loan, because that would mean that my credit would get pulled and I'd have to qualify it and all that other kind of stuff. The loan's not going under my name.
And two, then in that, assumption, there's the issue of the gap, right? So what that property's worth and what it is you're purchasing it. And so you have to figure out how to navigate that.
If it's at market value, if you're selling at market
exactly.
value. Right?
But the sub two, you don't have that same.
Yeah, a little different process.
Right, 100%. So we bought this one sub 2, and we took on what we did assume was the responsibility of making those monthly payments for him. So we went ahead and set up a third-party servicing company. So they don't work for me. They don't work for the seller. Paid this company like $10 a month. And all they do is service the mortgage. So we put a renter in there, and that money gets pulled by the servicing company, and they pay the original mortgage of $1,600, and then it's $2,100 a month. So the original payment of $1,600 on the mortgage gets paid, and then the remainder $500, comes to me, and this guy gets to walk away. He doesn't have to worry about leaky toilets or anything like that. He gets to walk away and just continue on with what he's doing and what his job was, and he has no responsibility or anything like that. Now the next big question when those sub twos take place is, all right, well, what if the guy wants to go purchase another property?
That was actually going to be my question.
Yeah.
There's a couple big questions that everybody always asks, and that's always the big one, because the debt is staying in the seller's name.
Right.
So with that servicing company, they have they have what's called a DTI declaration, a debt to income declaration, and after 2 or 3 months of us making payments on his mortgage, that will he can go to the servicing company, and they'll give him that DTI declaration just for them to be able to take their new lender, and it'll show them that the mortgage is being serviced by a third party company. And so that'll remove 75% of that property's DTI.
Gotcha.
So after 12 months of payments, it'll remove it 100%.
That's good to know.
So I've never had anybody have any issues getting qualified for another property unless it was something of their own fruition, that they did to their own credit to make themselves unqualifiable. Right. So this guy gets to go down to Florida and doesn't have to worry about it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And we did another one in Tucson just recently where this one was actually kind of neat, man. Like this is where you can turn deals that would others seemingly not seem like deals.
Right.
So there was it was actually another veteran couple. They were stationed down in Tucson. Davis Monthan was the base down there. They were stationed down there, and they got orders to Luke Air Force Base, which is in Phoenix. And so they're trying to sell their property. They just bought it again. Same issue with the VA loan. No equity, nothing like that. Yep. The realtors had it listed. It's overpriced, but she had to list it that much so that the sellers didn't have to. Yep. Exactly. So it's just sitting on the market.
Yep.
So again, had another agent reach out to me, and we ended up doing the same thing. So usually if they have equity in the property, as an example, that's something that we can pay out. Like if, not to deviate too much, but if we let's say the property's worth $120,000, and they owe $100,000 on the mortgage, we can get really creative with making sure they get their price and they get their equity. So we can buy it sub 2. So we take over that mortgage of $100,000, and then what we do is create a second note for $20,000, and then we just make monthly payments on them. They get mailbox money on that $20,000. So for a lot of people who haven't owned their property for less than 2 years, they've got to pay capital gains taxes.
Right.
So doing creative structures like this allows them to negate capital gains taxes.
That's pretty slick, actually.
Yeah. So if we have a lot of people who have 6 figures in equity, that are really tax conscientious.
Yeah.
This is a great strategy for them, where they get all of their money, they get all 100% of their equity, and don't have to pay capital gains taxes on their $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever of equity they have. They're just going to continue getting mailbox money every month.
Makes sense.
So it's really neat. It opens up a lot of different avenues and opportunities to help these sellers on whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. But like you said, you got to ask those right questions. You got to be very specific and understanding of what it is they're trying to accomplish and whether that would even be a good fit for them or not.
Right. Makes sense, man. I mean, the whole topic and it's just obviously way different than what most people are used to, you know. And so, you know, it's obviously if people have not been to Pace's YouTube channel and all that stuff, then obviously that's a good place to start. Bigger Pockets. He's got a whole chapter in the new Bigger Pockets book.
Oh, 100%.
You know, so I mean, he covers Subto and creative financing in that entire book, which is I need to order a few for this office, but just so people understand and have the ability to like educate themselves on, because they cover alternative financing, they cover BRRRR strategies, they cover all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, man. Thanks for kind of like opening our eyes on some of that stuff. And I'm sure we'll get some questions on our YouTube channel and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right? And I don't want misinformation or not having the right information. Have someone hold back from something that can help them.
Yeah.
You know, like if there is a circumstance where this fits somebody, you know, and it comes up, I want them to be
it's options,
right? And
a lot of people
know you have options.
Yeah. A lot of people ask that, man, from an investor standpoint when they start learning about this. They're like, and I thought the same thing, bro. And maybe you guys did too. I was like, who in their right mind would ever deed the property over to somebody else and keep their freaking debt in their name?
Right.
That sounds absolutely insane.
Right.
But if the options,
but the people asking that are not in a position where they need that.
Right.
Tell me somebody who's about to lose their house to auction.
That's not an option. Like that might be the only option they have.
Right? Exactly.
Right.
We can go in, we can save their credit, we can repair their credit because we're making their payments every single month.
Right.
And not only that, they get their equity out of their house.
Right.
But otherwise, had it gone to auction, they wouldn't have gotten anything.
Yeah.
And they would have had a damage to their credit for the next 7 to 10 years.
Right.
That's the big thing, right? It's like, how do you recover from that?
It's
you're
a tough recovery.
in a bad position, and then you have a MAR on your credit
Mm-hmm.
that maybe restrict you to
It's
getting
going to impact you
housing.
big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big impact.
For sure. I was talking about that last night. I was like, well, you weigh like bankruptcy and all this other stuff, and it's like, it's not a good position to be in. And if this offers them a rope in, a situation where they previously had no options, I mean, it's a good thing to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an eye opener, man, for sure. Especially for a lot of people who haven't heard it, but it's nice to know that it is a resource for for anybody, regardless of what type of situation you're in. There's a plethora of different creative strategies for doing things and helping people, and we went over some of those last night. Focusing on pre-foreclosures and helping people stop auctions and kind of getting a little bit of breathing room.
I was taking notes. I was like, I didn't know that I had to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're a little over an hour, which is cool. So we like to keep them around an hour, so our people don't get bored. Although I know like there's other podcasts that go, but here we are. We like to keep it ish at an hour ish.
Sounds good, man.
An hour ish. But before we go, we always ask every guest.
Oh shoot.
Some like Karen, who came on and like was completely listened to like 15 episodes of our podcast, so she knew exactly what. I mean, she came prepared. She had like notes and shit.
He said that she goes like this with the folder. I was like, all right, here we
So
go.
she knew what we're gonna ask. But the question is, if you could give 5 tips or pieces of advice for a brand new business owner or entrepreneur, what would they be?
One would be go find somebody who's doing what you want to be doing and go work for them. Go work for them for free.
Yeah. I don't think we've had that one yet. That's a new one. I like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll take it.
Boom. Okay. Dropping knowledge here. Okay. Number 2.
You have to realize there's this big misconception when it comes to failure. And I think this is a hard one for a lot of people because they think of failure in terms of whether you want to start a new skill, a new hobby, a new business. Nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to feel like a failure.
Yep.
But what you have to understand is the nuances of what failure actually is. People think of it in terms of, the way I think about it in my mind is like, you're going down this road and then you come to a T. And in this T, if you go right, you can choose success. And if you turn left, you can choose failure. So when you have a whole lot of higher level people talking about embrace failure and go out and just fail as much as you can, to a lot of people, if that's the way that they're perceiving something, like, oh, I'm going to start a business. All right, well, if I go right, like, why would I not choose success? Like, why would I choose to fail? And that's not at all what it is. You know, you got to understand that failure is a road, and there's different kinds of obstacles down that road. And as long as you continue going down it, success is at the end of the road.
Right.
What failure truly is if you just don't quit, or is if you quit.
Right.
That's what failure actually is.
Right.
So some of these obstacles, you know, maybe it's learning what the sales process is.
Right.
Maybe it's learning how to pitch creative finance. Maybe it's learning how to public speak. Whatever that is, you know, those obstacles are gonna be different for each person. Some of them you have to go over them. Some of them you have to go under them. Some of them might have a lock with a key and a rock, you know, that you got to find and figure out. But once you do, you learn how to overcome those obstacles. You're expanding your mind, and once that happens, like, it doesn't retract. Like, you've leveled up. There's no going back down.
Right.
And the only way that you get to that point is by embracing failure and learning what failure actually is. Going there and being consistent and just failing as much as you can.
They create learning opportunities, right? All those failures create learning opportunities, make you better at what you're
100%, man. It's education in life. Right? Okay.
It's a good one.
Tres. That's 3 for non-Spanish speaking people.
Thank you. We'll just address the elephant in the room. I know a little bit of Pig Latin. Number 3, somebody starting out. Being intentional. That's something that I hammer down on our show every single week. It's the big I word on our show. Intentional.
Okay.
And people don't necessarily understand what that means. Like getting into real estate, man. You got a million different avenues you can go. And what a lot of people do, and you guys have probably done, been through this before. I know I certainly have, where you're just busy as fuck all day long. Yeah. You lie your head on the pillow at night. You look up at your ceiling and you're like, son of a bitch, I got nothing fucking done today.
Feels like that sometimes.
Does.
It does.
Sometimes you just spin your wheels.
I got some. I got some techniques for that. Get some techniques. We'll
awesome. Yeah. Let's talk offline for sure. Yeah.
Because I'm definitely a victim of that myself. I'm like, shit, man, I didn't feel like I did anything. But you did. You did some stuff.
You did.
I think we all are. You know, that's something that everybody can relate with. But as I've learned to be more intentional with what I'm doing and what I'm learning and who I'm aligning myself with, that's where I've started seeing results.
Yep. Okay.
So
intentional number 4.
Number 4. This is going to be synonymous with that one. Time blocking.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You have to time block. And it's something, it's not like this I think a lot of people, time blocking, we've heard it since we were in kindergarten. You know what I mean? The word time block, and we've heard it and heard it and heard it and heard it. And for the longest time, I told myself that I don't need to write down on paper between 8 and 12, I'm going to call a seller. I know that when I wake up, I got to call sellers. That was always my mindset.
Right.
But being time blocked, like life happens, right? Things come up. Hey, our kid got sick and I need you to go run to school and go pick up our daughter. Oh, shoot. Well, that was right in the middle of when I was planning on calling or whatever. You get these life events and things that come up and they keep you from being consistent. Right. And if it's not time blocked and designated, you don't have a way to accurately maneuver or plan your day around.
Yeah.
So time blocking has been absolutely paramount for me, especially this year in scaling.
Last one. Quattro.
Man.
That's 5.
Man, oh man.
We have fun.
Man, I'm trying to think. Number 5.
Number 5. No pressure.
We're going to have to add out like a long, drawn-out pause here. Number 5. What would I want? Somebody else.
It could be anything.
Yeah, I don't want to just give you something just for the sake of giving you something.
I mean, you already threw out some pretty solid nuggets, bro.
Ooh. Oh, this is a no-brainer. You gotta read books. You gotta.
Funny. It's like I can read your mind.
Dude, I've read probably in 2022. I think I read like 42 or 43 books, and that has just been absolutely paramount. And I hated reading. Oh my gosh, I hated reading my entire life.
Yeah.
I didn't get into it probably until the last 18 months or so. I got really intentional with it last year, but gosh dang, man, just the ideas and things. Yeah. Going back to our previous conversations, man, like an idea is all you need to spark something new. Or
100%.
It's so crazy.
Plus, dude, people write books on stuff they've learned, right? Shit, right? Like education they've learned over the years, and now they put it into a format that you can read it and be educated on it, and now you've learned it. Right. It's
or
like,
listen to it.
Yeah, it's like $14.99 and you get their coaching for free.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know, I don't know who it was or who said it, but basically the gist was, the person that doesn't read doesn't have the advantage over someone that can't.
Right. Ooh, that's a big one.
Wow.
Throwing some shade
Dude,
out there,
that one is a good one, bro. I love that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal that one.
Yeah.
That is good.
Well, dude, those were all super insightful. I agree with all of them. Obviously, Billy agreed with all of them.
Time blocking for the win.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, some of the stuff we teach our agents, dude. But yeah, thanks for coming on the show, man. It was awesome having you,
Bro, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you both very much. Really appreciate you. Thank you. The pleasure was all mine.
Meet you,
Say what?
I said I've heard a lot about you, so it's good to finally meet you.
Oh, likewise.
You guys did a good job, and I'm excited about this stuff you guys are doing in the community. So
Thank you.
very good to see.
yeah. It's
Thank
gonna be
you.
huge, man. I think it's gonna be awesome. I look forward to learning more. 100%.
Awesome. Well, the best way to learn is to do it.
Do it.
So I'm excited
Yeah.
for us to be doing some stuff together
Yeah.
and to make some money together.
Yeah, me too. Well, cheers to 2023, man. I think it's gonna be an awesome year for
Right
all
on,
of us.
brother.
All right, man.
Okay. Love you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody, thanks again. Bye, buddy.